ESPN 1420, ESPN1420.com. Welcome back into the Great Scott Show, the Great Sports Callers Open Think Tank. Hope you all had a wonderful Christmas. I got a belated Christmas gift for you right now here on the Great Scott Show, the Great Sports Callers Open Think Tank. I'm Scott Prather, and at this time, I am pleased to be joined at this time by Daniel Cormier, Lafayette native, Northside High grad, U.S. Olympic wrestler, American Games gold medalist, and a professional fighter who sports a perfect 15-0 record in the world of mixed martial arts this Saturday. He'll face UFC light heavyweight champion Jon Jones at UFC 182. DC, what's up, man? How you feeling?
I feel great, man. Just resting. Got a nice run in this morning, and now I'm just kind of hanging out, kicking back, doing this media.
You focused on Saturday or what?
Man, let me tell you something. I've never been so focused on anything in my entire life. Jon Jones has consumed me for the last 3 months, and I'm just excited to get in a cage with him, fight him, get the job done so that I can try and move on to different things. My mind has been so clouded by him that I need to focus on something different.
You know, there's no denying a personal heat between you and Jon Jones. Can you pinpoint the exact moment that began, Daniel?
The moment I met him. I mean, it was the moment we actually met. You know, we were at a fight, UFC 121, I think, and I was there with Cain Velasquez as his wrestling coach, and Jones walked up to me, and he says he was joking and just trying to strike up a friendship and said, "Hey, I heard you're a good wrestler. I bet I can take you down 9 out of 10 times." I said, well, why not just say, "Hey, Daniel, I'm Jon. Nice to meet you." If you wanted to be my friend, you don't be like combative in the moment you meet someone that you don't know. And right from that moment, I was like, I need to kick this kid's ass.
You know, Jon Jones recently compared you to Chael Sonnen, claiming you're, quote, trying to make yourself believe you can easily beat him. I know you've given your response to several media outlets, but I know all your fans down here in Lafayette are anxious to hear your response to that.
Well, I mean, I don't necessarily know what he means by that. You know, I think he's saying that I say things that I don't believe, which is so not true. If that was the case, then you can kind of brush it off. But the fact is, I do believe the things that I'm saying, which makes me even more dangerous. I'm not trying to convince myself. I don't have to tell myself I'm going to beat Jon a million times to believe it. I say it once. I can feel it in my body. So there's no trying to convince myself. When he say I'm like Chael Sonnen, I don't know. Maybe it's because I can actually formulate sentences or something. I'm not exactly sure what that means. But, you know, I'm only saying the things that I truly believe, Scott, with 100% of me. Like everything of me believes that I can beat this dude, and if he doesn't fight, to his best, I believe I can dominate him.
Daniel Cormier, our guest right now, he's preparing to face UFC light heavyweight champion Jon Jones this Saturday at UFC 182, one of the most anticipated UFC events in recent memory. DC, about the fight a little bit, is your plan going in to try to out-wrestle Jones or maybe show off your improved stand-up skills and knock him the hell out?
Well, I've got to do everything. You know, I can't just go in there trying to wrestle with Jon Jones. That won't happen. If I go in there one-dimensional, he'll beat me. I've got to go in there and I've got to mix it up. I've got to be willing to wrestle. I've got to be willing to stand with him. I've got to be willing to grapple. I've got to be willing to do everything, and I am. You know, I've prepared myself for every possible situation, every scenario I've prepared myself for. So I'm ready to do anything with Jones, but there is no one way to victory. It has to be so many options, and with all the options, I've got to be willing to adjust, and I'm very prepared to do that.
What's the game plan in negating the long reach of Jon Jones?
I think that's simple. The game plan should be the same for everyone that's shorter, and that's get inside of him. You can't fight him at distance. He's too good there. If you stand outside trading strikes with Jones, you'll lose. He can hit you in places that you just can't get to him. But, yeah, you've got to get inside. You've got to fight within close quarters, and you just got to make him fight where he's uncomfortable.
Daniel Cormier, our guest, ESPN 1420 and .com, The Great Scott Show. What are your thoughts, DC? And if you didn't hear it, I apologize. But your thoughts on Joe Rogan's advice to Brendan Schaub on the Fighter and the Kid podcast? It kind of went viral in the MMA community, basically saying, look, you got to be concerned with head trauma, train smart, get out early rather than late, use that increased fame and notoriety, develop other sources of income. I was anxious to hear your opinion on Joe Rogan's advice.
Brendan's a good guy. I've trained with him before. I've hung out with him. We've worked together on TV. He and Joe are friends. Like, they're friends. So you're not getting just Joe Rogan, the commentator, saying this. This is him talking as a friend of Brendan's. And you know what? I mean, if you see your friend losing fights and they're getting knocked out consistently, you do try and give them advice. But at the end of the day, if fighting is in Brendan, you can't tell a guy to quit. He's found success in his career, and he's overcome a lot of obstacles in his career. So it's going to be up to him ultimately when he hangs up his gloves. But I do understand Joe as a friend telling him, this might not be for you anymore. You've done enough. You got your podcast. You're working on TV. You have all these avenues that you can pursue. You don't necessarily have to do this anymore.
Daniel Cormier, our guest, Lafayette native himself. Does it make you proud, DC, that there's several fighters from Louisiana and kind of the Acadiana area that have done so well in the sport?
I love it, man. I'm telling you, we come from a small city, and they have some scrappers down there in Lafayette, because for as many of us to be in the UFC from that little area, it's ridiculous. Like, Aaron Phillips is from Lafayette. Myself, Tim Crater, Dustin Poirier, Sean Jordan played at LSU. He was trained down in Lafayette when I went down there. I think he was living there. 5 guys from Lafayette fighting in the UFC. That's like 5 guys being in the NBA just from Lafayette. Crazy.
Yeah, well, back in your wrestling days, did you foresee the sport of MMA becoming as popular as it has?
I didn't think it was going to get this popular. My first memory of watching mixed fighting was my coach, Stephen Lotief. He coached my wrestling team. He had a videotape, and it was these guys fighting in the cage, and I was like, what? Not in the cage, in the ring. And I was like, what in the world is this? He was like, it's the craziest thing. He goes, it's called mixed martial arts, or MMA, UFC fighting. And it was nuts. It was like 1997. I was a senior in high school, and he showed me this tape, and it was like Ken Shamrock and all those guys. I was like, you got to be kidding me. What is this? But it was cool.
And I bet you if somebody had told you, hey, you're going to be at the top of this sport in about a decade, you might have laughed them off at the time?
I would have laughed. Because all I could think about at the time was wrestling.
Right.
All I wanted to do was wrestle. That's what I wanted to do with my entire life. And I would never have thought that I would be fighting in the MGM Grand in Las Vegas in mixed martial arts for the UFC. It would not have ever crossed my mind.
Daniel Cormier, our guest, ESPN 1420 and .com. He will face UFC light heavyweight champion Jon Jones this Saturday at UFC 182. And I know your only focus right now, as you said earlier, is the fight with Jones. It's consumed you. But being that you're from Lafayette, I have to ask you, have you ever given any thought to maybe coming home after your career or what you're going to do post-fighting, maybe open up an academy of some sort? Do you think about these things, or is your only focus right now just kind of in the moment?
Man, I've thought about it, and I would like to do things at home, like maybe a wrestling school, maybe a mixed martial arts academy, just to kind of give back to the community, because so many people lifted me in Lafayette when I was a kid, man. So many people believed, so many people helped me to just get out of Lafayette with wrestling. So I'd like to come back and give that opportunity to people down there. And I would also like to just live at home. I mean, I haven't lived at home since 1998. 1997 I left for college in the fall. And that was the last time that I've lived at home consistently. And it sucks. I miss being around my parents. I miss being around my family. Everybody's still there. So it kind of sucks not being home. And every time I am home, I feel so good and so happy. There is an idea that I could do some things back at home when I'm done.
And your favorite dish back home is what?
red beans and rice, 100%. But I do miss boudin. Oh, man, I'm so hungry for that stuff right now.
But right now you're down to fight in the light heavyweight class, training hard. Lastly, DC, paint the picture for us. Saturday night, UFC 182, Jon Jones versus Daniel Cormier. How does this thing end?
This thing ends with me getting my hand raised, staying undefeated, and becoming the new UFC light heavyweight champion. The referee's going to say, you ready to fight? I'm going to tell him yes, and John's going to say yes. Then we're going to go in there. We're going to give you guys a great show. But at the end of 25 minutes, or however long that fight lasts, I'll be the guy standing, and I'll bring the belt back to Lafayette.
DC, man, good luck. We're all rooting for you here in Lafayette. Go kick Jones's ass, and we look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much.